Welcome to All Things Real Estate on Full Service Radio, 830 WCRN. Now, here's your hosts, Gary Kelley and Brad Avergon.
Good afternoon and welcome to All Things Real Estate on WCRN. I am Gary Kelley with RE/MAX Executive Realty, and I am joined by the
Brad
Dapper.
Avergon. Oh, sorry. I thought that was my cue. Brad Avergon with Envision Bank and Mortgage.
So, Brad, welcome to the new year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Gary.
So, it's a new year. It's 2022, but it feels like 2020 all over again.
It definitely is a Groundhog Day kind of experience. A little early for Groundhog Day, but it's definitely that kind of experience.
For our listeners, I'll let them know that I'm going to put a mask on and wear my mask the entire show. What do you think, Brad?
That is not an approved yet mask, Gary. Let me demonstrate what an approved mask looks like so that you can see that. This is an N95 mask, Gary.
Oh, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. I put on a cloth mask because it happens to be what's on my desk. Brad can do surgery right now.
Oh my goodness.
So Brad,
it's crazy.
Brad, when I get a call from someone saying, I'd like to talk to you about selling my house, I always find it interesting because they do it in hushed tones. Like someone's going to hear that they're considering selling their house. And what do you think my first question is when I get that when I get that call?
Where are you going?
Well, I do ask that question. We're all followed quickly by, when can I see the house? What time can I get over there? I'm going to bring Sue with me. But no, one of the questions that we ask early on is, it's great that you want to sell. What's your next step? And a lot of times people will say, I'm moving in with my kids. And I roll my eyes and say, okay. And I say that tongue in cheek. They'll say to me, I bought a house years ago in the Cape and I'm going to move there. Excellent. Some people will say, I bought a house in Florida, I'm going to move there. That's great too. But some of them say, I don't know where I'm going. And that gives me pause right now. How about you, Brad?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's so much of what we do comes into the planning aspect of it, and sometimes people just say, okay, I want to sell my house, or I want to get out of here, and they don't think to the next steps. And that's where I think, sitting down with them and having that kind of conversation with those questions and figuring out not only, what you want to do initially, but what those next steps are going to be, and then setting steps in place on how to get there. Basically setting a roadmap on how to do it.
Right. I think that's important. Sometimes people are like, they get all into the mechanics. What do I have to clear out of the house? Should I, redo the kitchen? And 90% of the time, the answer to that is no. You're not going to get the money out. Let whoever buys the house redo the kitchen. If you want to put some paint on something, I'm a big believer in paint freshening, that kind of thing. But I really get concerned if people say, I don't know where I'm going. And we can then sit down and have a discussion. But as we've talked many, many times on this show, the inventory in the market right now continues to be very low. We're at levels that we haven't seen in years for the amount of available inventory on the market. So what's that mean? That means it's a great time if you're the seller to sell your house, because I'm not going to say you always have a feeding frenzy, but you have a lot of people that are interested in the house, and houses are tending to sell quickly. We're not seeing the craziness right now. We are seeing people where you got multiple offers, etc., but houses are selling. But when you look at inventory levels that are down a fraction of what they were last year, and maybe half of what they were in 2018, it really makes people think about what's going on. And so the question becomes, where do they go? And that's something that I often worry about for people, is where are they going?
I couldn't agree more, Gary. And it's not just in our area. That's something that, we've had an inventory problem for a couple of years now. And, for people that, for example, were planning on heading to Florida, maybe, for retirement and such, there was always ample inventory down there, or maybe they were heading to Arizona for their final retirement home. So they were, basically selling this house, but moving to an area that maybe winter was a little bit less cumbersome, things like that. And right now, I know in Florida, the inventory is down 60% from what it was year over year. And so it's not just a local Massachusetts problem, it is a national problem. And so setting a plan in place and maybe even making arrangements for temporary housing is not such a bad idea. As well as I that if you put a house on the market right now and you price it correctly, it's probably going to go under agreement within 30 days. Is that a reasonable expectation?
I think that is, and I think that as you talk to people, that becomes part of the conversation. Is, do you find a house to live in first, and then you try to put an offer in on it, and people say, "Well, you haven't sold your house yet." I don't know about that. And the truth is, if they haven't sold their house yet, if the house is ready to go on the market, and that's a big if everything's done and it's a matter of just hitting the post button on MLS, then far less risky. But if people are like, well, yeah, we got to get ready to put the house in the market. Generally speaking, you don't put the house in the market by saying, here we go. I mean, we go out, we do pictures, we do staging, we market analysis. There's a number of things that we do that come into putting the house in the market that takes a little time. And if they're trying to offer on something, frankly, they're in a stronger position if their house has already sold.
Right, right. And I think one of the things that in the current market that we find ourselves in, and again, nationally, it's not a bad idea to even consider if you don't have a house on the Cape or a house in Florida or somewhere to go to, maybe making those arrangements in advance, maybe even renting, signing a lease to rent a place temporarily if you don't have the funds to be able to transition into a new property without the sale of your home. Maybe you have enough funds to arrange a lease somewhere where you can go to. And if there's a 30 to, a 60-day timeline, it might be worth that just to be able to know you've got a place, to go to as part of your plan. So when your home does go on the market and sell relatively quickly, that you'll have somewhere to go to. That's the big key factor, I think, right now.
Well, when I talk to people, sometimes they say, it's not a problem. I'm just going to get one of those bridge loans. What are your thoughts about, quote, a bridge loan, unquote?
So, bridge loans. So let's talk about what a bridge loan is anyway. Let's start with the definition so all of our listeners understand what it is. What a bridge loan does is it allows you to bridge the equity between the time that you sell your house, put your house under agreement, and you sell your house. So you've got your house under agreement and allows you to tap that equity during that timeline up to 80% of the value of your current home. So it's basically like a second mortgage on your current home, up to 80%. It's certainly an option. I don't think it's the preferential option. I think I look at it as an option of secondary resort, so to speak. And I'll explain what I mean by that. The bridge loan, first of all, comes with certain costs. When you do a bridge loan, usually you're going to pay a point up to, let's say, $2,000. But we do bridge loans, and that's another thing. Not every bank does bridge loans. Bridge loans were a very common thing for many years, but most banks and certainly mortgage companies have gotten away from doing bridge financing because, quite frankly, there's no money in it. Right? You're gonna put a small loan on your house. It's going to be there for probably 30 to 60 days, and then it's going to get paid off. And that's how bridge financing works. So banks don't make, there's no profit in it for the banks. So what banks do is they charge, at least we do, is we charge a point to do that. And again, we'll go up to 80%, but it doesn't take you to that 100% level of equity in your home. So you have to understand, what it is you're getting. I think a better way to do that, Gary, is to, if you know you're going to be getting ready to move in the next couple of years, or even if you're not getting ready to move, this is a great way to turn the equity into your home into a liquid asset that you can tap if you need to with minimal cost. And that is to put an equity line on your home. There's usually no points, no closing costs to it. We go to 80% financing on those, up to a $250,000 loan amount typically. And that's for a second mortgage. And even if you pay it off early, there's only a few $100 early prepayment penalty on it, and that's it. So given that there are no points, no closing costs versus a bridge loan where there's points on it and such, and closing fees, I think it's a better option.
So literally someone asked me about getting a home equity line at Chet's Diner just the other day. And she was under the impression it's just as difficult as getting a full-on mortgage, that the paperwork requirements are onerous. Is that your experience?
I don't think they're quite as onerous. Certainly, it does take paperwork to get it done. If you're a W-2 employee and you work for somebody else, it's much easier. If you're self-employed, it's a little trickier because of some of the restrictions that have been put in due to COVID, requiring, a little more self-employment analysis, But in general, equity lines are portfolio products. They're not sold on the secondary market. So they go to the bank. So they're not held to the same stringent requirement that a loan that's going to be sold on the secondary market is.
Brad, I want you to stop right there. Okay? Because we got to pay for today. Okay? Let's let today get some coffee, get lunch, and then we'll come back in the second half and continue the conversation.
Sounds like a plan. See you on the flip side.
You've been listening to All Things Real Estate on Full Service Radio, 830 WCRN.